First of all, I'm so excited to see a great turnout again today, and I see a lot of new names and faces too, and so that's always exciting, and that's one of our goals here with the Livestock Publications Council is to use these coffee collaborations as a way to put out new topics every month that will draw in some of our different members, because LPC really represents a wide variety of people in the industry, and we all have jobs that relate to livestock and communications, but how that manifests every day is a lot different. And so I'm really excited that today we're going to talk about making the most of virtual marketing. A year ago, this wasn't necessarily a topic that we had on our agenda, but obviously with all the crazy that's happened here in 2020, we've all had to adjust. And today we've got two great speakers who I admire both for their creativity and their professionalism and the mark that they're making in agriculture and the livestock industry specifically. And they have done some really cool things this year with virtual marketing. And so they're going to team up to share some of those ideas with you guys. If this is your first time being a part of one of our coffee collaborations, I just want to make sure you note that there is a chat section at the bottom. That's where we ask our questions just to allow them to get through their scheduled presentation time. Please put your questions there. They'll be looking at that, but I'll be monitoring that as well, and we'll make sure that I get all those questions asked at the end. Our goal is to be done by 10:45, so you guys can get on to your next meetings. If there are any other questions for me or anybody, please feel free to add those there as well if you're having any trouble with connections. So with that, I'm going to introduce, oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Scheich. I'm with Farm Journal Support. If you ever have ideas for future topic sessions, please feel free to email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat as well, because we're always looking for your ideas and to find out what topics you care about. So with that, I'm going to introduce briefly our two speakers. We have Jenn Norrie from Alltech and Kylee Deniz from the National Pork Board, and they're going to introduce themselves a little bit more in their talks. But thank you guys so much for making time for us today. And with that, I will be quiet and turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jennifer. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm Jenn Norrie. So I'm the communications manager for Alltech for North America and most recently Europe, although both places that I can't really visit often, as I'm actually in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where it's cold and snowy today. Borders are closed. So I know all of us are dealing a lot with different, webinars and virtual opportunities. So I was really excited when Jennifer asked if I'd be willing to share a little bit about our Alltech conference. So I'm just going to share my screen here. I've got a few slides. I'll probably talk like a mile a minute because I can really dive into this, maybe almost too much. So feel free, as she mentioned, questions in the chat. Happy to share in that. But the biggest thing that came as COVID, came down kind of in those early days of March in North America, we at Alltech, we host the one conference, and before it was the symposium. I think some of you on this call may have attended in Lexington, Kentucky before. And all of a sudden it was like, we needed to make a quick switch and have, a virtual option. And, are there going to be people there? At that point, we were hoping there was still going to be some people there. And in the end, it was not. So here is our story, in 15 slides or less of how we proceeded in making the most of a virtual event. So let's start off with today. Here's Instagram versus reality. I think, I've been working from home for a couple of years, but really it's working anywhere with Wi-Fi. So, got a little business on the top with the suit and the jacket, but I'm definitely wearing Lulus on the bottom and fuzzy slippers. And most of the days, like I'm set up at the dining room table, looking outside and just making a makeshift desk, as I think many people are in these days. So it's things that I, probably wasn't sharing before, but now that everybody's in that work from home environment, it's like, okay, we're being real about this. So, lifetime in the time of COVID. So it was decided in early March that we needed to make a change and have a virtual offering for our conference. So we had 70 days to convert the event to online. Our typical in-person event that's in Lexington hosts about 3,500 people from 68 countries around the world. In our press room, we have over 120 media and then social advocates, influencers. And last year, in 2019, was from 19 different countries. more than 60 speakers and sessions in 2 days. And it's actually held at Rupp Arena in Lexington. And it's quite the big event. So I've got a post here, and that's Mark Lyons, our president and CEO, standing on stage in 2019. And how we would have, usually had 3,500 people. This year, when we actually registered for the virtual event, we had 23,500, which actually would have filled the full arena. So just a really interesting perspective there, looking from what was to what it became, and if we'd all been there in person. So the One virtual experience launched on May 18th, as the in-person event would have as well. We had over 23,000 registrants from 119 countries. So the fact that it went virtual allowed more people, because there was, there's no cost for travel, there was no visas, and it was just the ability that, things were available on demand and that. So time zones didn't become an issue. People could watch presentations when it worked for them. We had more than 580 press, media, and social advocates from 57 countries attend. So that was amazing, because we hosted some press briefings, we had some press events, because again, the room's usually a big buzz. Our media have a great time all together. And then of course it's really sharing those stories and what's being learned from one. And it gave the opportunity to attend more than just the sessions that you would have in the 2 days in Lexington. Our launch week included, we had 6 keynote speakers, 40 session speakers. There was chats, we had virtual fun runs and happy hours, really trying to bring in some of those aspects that we would have if we were in person. And then to keep things going, each month we've been adding a new session and speaker. So actually this week we launched our aquaculture session. Last month, was pet and equine. So there's more pieces coming, and trying to keep people coming back to the virtual event until May next year, where we hope we can gather in person. But I think all of us are, in that, let's see how 2021 starts to look. So big key takeaways was, the power of technology. Sorry, here, I'm just moving that. We had 20 different platforms that we were working with to put together the virtual experience. So everything from Microsoft Teams we used a company called Meeting Play to set up kind of the background. We used Zoom. We used many, many different platforms there. What we ended up doing was we had presentation videos pre-recorded. So we've got set up here, Amanda Radke was one of our speakers in the beef session. So she took a great selfie shot with her microphone and her setup while she was recording. The bottom one's actually one of our Canadian poultry specialist, Kayla Price. She's got her chicken in the chair, but she's got the green screen behind her in the setup. So we have a corporate media team on site that sent everybody out green screens and professional recording equipment, and really talked through the group as they were doing their presentations. Then it also gave the opportunity to that we could actually, edit them and be able to change up any of those kind of things to, if there were any issues. And again, as I mentioned, being online and on demand removed the barriers of cost, time, and travel, and gave accessibility for everybody to attend. Sorry. As far as, I can't stress this enough, teamwork makes dream work. We had a core team of almost 40 people, of in-house specialists from around the world that literally worked 24/7. So, as someone's going to bed in this time zone, a guy in India is waking up and taking it over on the team for the rest of the day. So this was everything from web design, video, streaming, editing, we had graphic design, social media, media relations, and so many more teammates that came together that really pulled this together. And our global sales team, they're the ones really, inviting and registering their customers. And then they were hosting a lot of local and virtual happy hours to, again, that's their real engagement with their guys that they would have hosted in Kentucky. So a big thing I find with the virtual events is still make this personal. The fact that we can't get together, we didn't just rely on, of course we send a lot of emails out through HubSpot and those kind of things and personal, but pick up the phone, text messages, social media, direct messages, really get out to your network and make that extra little personal step that it's I think right now we're being really bombarded with, a lot of virtual events. So it's, what's that extra step that makes me want to attend it? And I think that's really that personal connection of, hey, Jen invited me to this, I think I'll actually attend it. So that's one of the key points that I took away from that. You will see I've got a nice shot of Kylee here. So Kylee attended our conference virtually, and what we did was really promote it on social media since people weren't going to be there in person. Lots of events have had official hashtags. This isn't something new, but what we did was actually add a kind of a fun hashtag. And my one point of view was where we were asking people to share where they were watching and how they were watching from different parts around the world. So, Kylie's got her, Alltech orange on. That was great. She's got her setup. She's got her light ring. And then Jamie Johansson, who many know as well, good friends, she's got her daughter Harper, and they're set up and they're watching. So it was really cool to see people like sharing their experiences of where they were watching from. We had, pet pictures coming in, people sitting, in the back patio that, enjoying the sunshine and taking it all in. So social media and media social, hey, we know, like, again, our media crew and ag communicators, we're a social bunch. We liked our events and we like to see each other. We like to get together. So what we did is on the Monday at noon Eastern, we brought those that were available together for a happy hour cheers, essentially, because really it's 5 o'clock somewhere when you're at a global conference. So we had our president and CEO, Mark Lyons, joined us from our headquarters in Kentucky. Actually has an Irish pub inside of it. So he went and poured himself a pint, and we did a couple presentations of media awards that we have with the IFHA group, as well as our South American colleagues. And then Mark joined us for a toast and a cheers. So it was just a nice added piece to have that social interaction, have a drink during the day and just really have a chance to chit chat with those that we would typically get to see in person. Work hard, play hard. So even though it's virtual, we added some of these fun elements that usually if you're going to be there in person. So I don't usually associate fun with run, but there is a fun run usually on the Monday morning where people run through downtown Lexington. So what we did was a global virtual hashtag run for one, and we set up challenges. So the idea was that run 4 kilometers, challenge 4 of your friends to do the same, and then donate $4 to the Pierce Lyons ACE Foundation, which is a philanthropic foundation to support disaster relief and farmers around the world in certain situations. So it actually took off like gangbusters, and we had so much fun with social and people sharing and that. As I mentioned, the virtual happy hours. So actually that's a setup from my table. So I have a couple of our Alltech branded spirits, as we have a beverage division with bourbons and beers and things like that. And then also there's a screenshot of my Latin American colleagues, as they actually had a guest co-host. So the Argentinian country manager was putting together drinks and sharing for a happy hour with the group. So, special drinks, bartender, dress up themes, we were on a couple last week for sales meetings. So, throw on like a cowboy hat or something like that to engage and have some fun. And the key of this, as Kylie's going to come on and speak to this, is collaboration. So even though we can't see each other, I think, the network and the group of people that we have and that we meet at our events, call up a friend and ask them to help out. So I was hosting some Instagram lives from the Alltech account. And what I did was, call up a few friends like Kylie. And then she asked me in return if I could speak to her group of colleagues from the pork group. And nicely, she had given me some swag in my favorite color, turquoise. So it was just a great piece. And then again today, as we have the opportunity to speak to you guys, it's just a really nice way to work together and still network even though we're not together. But so with that, I will hand that over to Kylie to take over.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Just gonna click and make sure my screen will move. There we go. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It was so fun to just relive the Alltech One experience, as Jen was talking about it again. I suppose, as you can see from her presentation, I just had a ton of fun. And for years, Jen and I have talked about my in-person visit to the One conference. But I would say I made the most of the virtual and really loved the experience. So Jen, thanks for that, and love to collaborate, or excited to collaborate today. Jen talked about what her company did in terms of just connecting with individuals in such a unique time. And my recent role change at the National Pork Board has me focusing on consumers. I'm an ag, farm girl at heart. But as I was thinking about the title of my presentation, I was trying to come up with something crafty around unprecedented times, or what COVID has done to the world we live in. And instead, I'm just going to say today, because today and tomorrow and the day before all seem to be just a bit different, and we're living it all together. So with that, I'll get started. I think I know many of you, but those that I don't, just want to say a quick hello from outside of Oklahoma City. Oklahoma. And I work in pork, of course, but my husband works in the cattle industry and actually within the Angus business. So shout out to the folks from Angus on the line, and coming to you from a large Angus ranch. So our house is divided, but very proud of my work at the National Pork Board. I say my husband and I get together at a national livestock show, and we're good because he can go to the cattle barn, I can go to the pig barn. We can be in a competitive, right, adrenaline rushing type of an environment and still have a nice dinner at the end of the day. So that's who I am. Nice to meet you all. And then let's go ahead and get started. So at the National Pork Board, we are, everything we do is really grounded in insight. And with COVID-19, it's really been a bright spot for pork and pork's appeal for consumers. So I want to just share a few things with you here. As you can see that each of these stats are noted, the source is noted, but specifically pork was the only protein consumers wanted to purchase more during the second quarter. And then here's just a few stats of what consumers want. Quick, easy, simple, flavorful, everyone will eat, doesn't require a lot of thought. And of course, right, pork plus grilling season really delivers in that area. So I want to share with you the situation we experienced this summer as we took grilling season to consumers. It's a big initiative from a pork perspective that we do each year. And grilling season in our mind really goes from mid-May to Labor Day, and usually coincides with so many great things that speak summer, barbecues, baseball games, outside gatherings, vacations. But as you all know, that was far from what we experienced this summer. We had 3 goals, subtle, right, undertone goals, but we wanted people to buy pork for their summer grilling. We wanted to promote grilling as a social event in this socially distanced world, and then really connect on pork's best, such as flavor, the health benefits, routine, how pork fits into a routine, the versatility of pork. But if I could quick jog your memory as to how things between mid-May and Labor Day, the grilling season were, March-ish, right? The country really started to shut down, or I say that we all went home, even though I do work remote, but that's what happened in March. We saw really tragic things for the pork industry in April from a supply perspective. Tough decisions were being made on farm. As we moved into mid-May, right, the feeling of summer, get into June, and there's some social unrest, some uncertainty, conversations around injustice. And in fact, from a pork perspective, we actually just paused our proactive social outreach for about 2 weeks following Blackout Tuesday. Got into July and we experienced things being canceled from a summer perspective to a significant degree. Calgary Stampede, our fairs, big state fairs around the country. And it just continued July right into August when we tried to go back to kind of a routine. But I think that we could all say that back to routine in August and kids in school, very different between an in-person or a hybrid or a totally out of school model. So quite a situation we had in front of us, but to no surprise, pork, we really got crafty and tried to capitalize on National Grilling Day, hashtag National Grilling Day, which was July 22nd. And you can see here, this is just, I've included some of our social graphics to give you an idea of how we promoted the event. But from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, we were live, which is 7 hours. And we say 7 hours of the best grilling content. We had 16 different partners, and those partners included National Pork Board staff, as well as culinary partners, registered dietitians, even farmers, and it was just an incredible experience. 22 different segments, and then from a just food perspective, we covered multiple cuisines and flavors, and really connected on what our campaign is today, Passport, in terms of using food as an escape from the monotony. So July 22nd, we went all out, and I wanted to give you just a bit of an idea here on screen as to what we did. From an Instagram perspective, you can see what we did. From an in-feed piece, you can see how we promoted the event in terms of Insta Story, the phone there in the center, and then over to the right-hand side, what we did on promoting Facebook. So we really did some cross promotion. Of course, this live lived on Facebook, but with Facebook and and Instagram's, connection and those things. And just even from a following perspective, our overlap, we thought it made sense to promote across platforms. So that's what we did. And here is what is on, or what was on the menu. Again, I mentioned the number of people that collaborated, the type of food. We really just went from one segment and creator partner to the next. Really super tasty, a fun few highlights just to think about the tandoori tacos or the Cuban pork tenderloin. We even double clicked into smoking pork. We saw there was some trend on smoking and smoking pork, not smoking, right? Just smoking, but smoking pork and people having more time on their hands. So we thought that made a ton of sense for the summer season as well. And here's a taste of what the Grill-a-thon looked like. Starting to the left-hand side, you can see Kevin Sheehan, who is on our staff at the National Pork Board. He's our Director of Processor Engagement. Kevin and you Kansas State folks will love this. Kevin made a couple recipes of pulled pork nachos and then did a ground pork nachos, as well as celebrated the end of his meal with a Nancy, which I think is quite a thing in Manhattan, Kansas, he tells me. Our chef, Neil Sani, created a Jamaican jerk rice. Right here, the Yum Yum foodie, Eddie Zamora, actually is a TV host and just a close friend of the National Pork Board, and look forward to the opportunity to join from his home, his backyard, to celebrate one of his favorite pork dishes. And then to the far right, Chef Matt Abdu actually owns Pig Beach in New York City and shared this recipe with our folks. Continuing to click through here just a bit, I mentioned, and we're all ag enthusiasts at our very core, although I work in more of a consumer focused space today. For me and for us as a producer-led organization, the highlight, of course, is when your results come back, and your highest moment of viewer engagement is when you have a pig farmer on camera. So this is Kristen Clark. Uniquely, Kristen's actually at her home outside of Des Moines, Iowa, on the farm, and Kristen just redid her camper, and this is inside of her camper. So her whole messaging and tone was about bringing indoor flavors, or bringing grilling flavors indoors. And so it's kind of just this bust of stereotype you would think, right? The pig farmer would be on the farm, outside, rolling hills, barn in the background, and Kristen really, she has a personality for it. She did a great job, and she was our peak through the day, with about 1,200 folks watching live. And you can just see kind of where our traffic was throughout the day. We were quite surprised. We thought we would see a spike and then a significant dip, but even at our lowest points, you can see that we were still in the hundreds of folks watching live. Really proud of Kristen, love her anyway, and just so cool that we can say a pig farmer had the highest viewer engagement throughout the entire 7 hours. And wanted to then cover off, and to Jen's point, I could talk on hours literally for what we did with National Grilling Day, but here are a few highlights in terms of success. Again, 7 hours, and we had a total right at the end of National Grilling Day. We pulled these results, so of course that lives on our social channels, and the numbers would be higher, but these reflect what we had at the end of the day, 135,000 plus minutes watched. And if you think of that in terms of football games, I think that's somewhere around 2,000 60-minute football games, which is just crazy to think about. And in transparency, sharing a few stats here, because I think that this is really from a marketing or communication perspective, the why. That's more than the total number of Facebook video viewed across 5 videos during the entire month of July for us. So in one day, 7 hours, we were really able to achieve quite success. We had 300,000, more than 336,000 viewers of the Grill-a-thon. And just in terms of new followers to our Facebook page, it yielded about 800. And then again, from that specific day, and then 2,000, more than 2,000, just over 2,000 social media engagements. And from a video performance perspective, 13.4 times higher than posts within one day and 6 hours of publishing. So really just thinking about what we did in 7 hours, I said throughout the process to my team that what we were doing is really what brands achieve in like a month or a quarter. And I think these results really speak to that. So a few comments over to the right-hand side. that came in during the live, how folks were just engaging with the content. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, of course, behind the scenes, right, there's some vulnerability to going live. And we did receive a little bit of spam as we kicked off the live. So just a heads up there. And we know that there are folks that are against us, as well as many that are for us. So that is a vulnerability. We also had an incredible community management crew behind the scenes that were engaging with comments, sharing links to the recipes. We also had a set of talking points, and Cindy Cunningham is on the line. We covered things from food safety to supply chain, future farming at that time, right? A really sensitive time for our industry also to be in a space that was so public and so live. And in terms of community management as well, we had folks, experts on our team from a culinary perspective or food safety perspective that were kind of behind the scenes answering any questions if they came about to support those that were doing the public facing community management. So in sum, here was the end of the day for us. We did these segments really from across the country and various partners, but it ended in the National Pork Board Innovation Kitchen, which here on screen you can see Neil Hull, who is our Director of Channel Marketing, and Kara Belke, who is our Director of Health and Wellness or Nutrition. She's a registered dietitian. And they ended the day in the kitchen. They made that great Cuban tenderloin recipe. They shared a few just stories or comments over drinks, and even fielded live questions, which from our perspective, that really that's new for us. We have a process where we route things to AMS via USDA. And so to go live, it was something we very much had to work through and make sure we continue to be on point, watch brands in camera. As you can see, most of the bottles are flipped around, so we're not promoting a specific brand, but we do have a new beautiful kitchen, and it was really great to put our own people on screen and just have the dialogue that they did. To close, I've included a link here, pork.to/grillathon, as the collection of all of our recipes from National Grilling Day. So I would invite you to take a look at those recipes, make some if you'd like. We do have consumers who have reached out to us via private message or direct message saying that they have made 7 of the 22 different recipes, and they're on this personal journey. So that's so fun to hear. And then of course the content lives on. The recipes are on Yumly, which is our platform, our recipe collection hub. All of the video or the segments are listed on our YouTube channel. We actually have a playlist, so you can go back and watch those at any time. And then if you take a look back at our Instagram or our Twitter or our Facebook, or even through our Pinterest, you will see links to the content. So we're finding more ways to repurpose beyond just what we did for that 7 hours. It was a lot of fun. It was very wild. I started sharing that I'm coming to you live from a cattle ranch. This was the day of the Angus show or the Angus Deer Nationals, one of the show days. And so again, house divided. I was doing that as well as celebrating pork on National Grilling Day. With that, that's what I have. And I think, Jen, we can open it up for questions, and I'm excited to hear what the group thinks.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much. All right, we've got a couple questions. And again, if anybody else has any, please feel free to add those to the chat. So the first question is from Morgan. How do you keep up with engagement when your social feeds aren't focused around big events?
Sure. So I'll jump in there. Yeah, because again, we both focused on events for this presentation, but really we have a content calendar and a content team that puts together, so we have something to share pretty much daily, if not a couple times a day. And what we do is really reach out to a lot of our team members. We have different blogs, what's kind of cool in their area. Some of the things that we've done from work from home is that we have a large research-based team. And so one of our research scientists was helping out her nieces and nephews with some like fun science experiments from home. So what we've done with that is actually, now sharing it on the Alltech channel. And they've been getting the biggest engagements that we've had since basically our one conference. So again, people are looking for kind of that change up in different pieces. We'll have, more technical pieces. We'll have our monthly one content, but then also it's, yeah, what other kind of fun pieces can we put together? It was World Egg Day last week. So the team around the world put together just different snips of and it all became one video. That's one of the highest viewed pieces we put on social and that. But I think it's that content calendar to put together and just to make sure that you've got different things to share. Because sometimes I think each day, if you're just looking at it, it's like, okay, what to share today? Or it gets lost in, the to-do list of all those kind of things. But yeah, that's kind of from our perspective. How about you, Kylie?
Sure, thanks, Jen. The last big consumer-facing event I went to would have been the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, and I think that was nearly a year and a half ago. And so it's been a while for us. And to Jen's point, we have definitely gotten scrappy in terms of our always-on content with really, talking flavor. Cooking temperature is a big opportunity for us when it comes to pork. And so our content calendar maybe looks and feels a bit different, but I would argue that we are content generating machines today, maybe as much as we've ever done before. So I think as our lives look differently, we're also finding different ways to connect with people, right? I should say consumers, but people, because I'm a consumer just like each of you are. And it's been fun to challenge the team. It's been fun to think differently. And then I would specifically say we launched a new campaign called Pork is a Passport. And it was to do just that. We didn't have these big milestone dates or even at the pork board from our calendar year. We hit things and we move on, and that's just how our year flows. And so we did fire up a new campaign to really connect on with consumers on wanderlust and using flavor to allow them to explore something different from the mundane. So it's been fun to dig into that and really stretch our creative juices. Thanks for the question, Morgan.
Hey, Jen asked to both of you, when we get back to in-person events, do you expect to continue to have hybrid events?
That's been a big discussion, of course, and since we've had such big numbers, that's definitely what we will be doing is, we definitely want to get back together in person when it's possible and see how that looks. At the moment, we're not having any in-person events. So definitely the virtual events like the virtual one conference and that will be some sort of it, seeing how that all comes to be. But I think all of us are in these situations as we're trying to plan for 2021, keep going, what if, what does that look like? And contingencies very much. It's kind of the if COVID and without COVID situations in terms of events, budgets, and all of those kind of things. But I think everyone's getting better at them, getting more used to them. I think also as we're in the Northern Hemisphere coming into winter, probably a little bit more engagement, but there definitely was, that sense of webinar fatigue and things like that throughout the summer where people were like, let's take advantage of the nice weather. But now that we're getting into it, it's a little more available to get back online and people are looking for that. So, and Kylie?
Yeah, so my glass is always half full versus half empty kind of person. This time with canceled in-person events has allowed me personally to attend events that I wouldn't have been able to in the past. And so not specific, Jen, to your question on how we will do it, but I would say that the unique piece is I've attended brand weeks or Adweek's brand week, which I don't know that would have been within scope of my personal development. And so I think that what I've heard and hearing Jen just talk about the increased number of attendees to the one conference, I would predict that there will be some hybrid approach because individuals like myself, have really enjoyed tapping into an event, which I maybe couldn't have done previously. And so the sentiment around our office is things will continue to have at least a hybrid feel at the minimum for some time. And it might be because of a personal health decision, but it also might be because of travel or some of those other financial pieces that we've learned through COVID. So I love in-person more than anybody. I met Jen in person, I think at the World Pork, well, we met at Ag Media Summit in Utah, which I don't know how long ago Ag Media Summit in Utah was, but without that in-person piece, there's a piece of my heart that is still hanging out somewhere. I need to pull it back together. So hopefully we're all in person soon. But I do think that there's some silver lining to what we've done as brands to provide experiences and educate today through COVID-19.
Well, I think those are some really good points. And I totally agree with what you just said, Kylie. I think there's been so many great opportunities that, we've been able to have, especially I think as ag journalists, we've been able to be exposed to some things we may not have been able to afford to go to before. But I miss people's faces and it's just not quite the same, but give and take. Are there any other questions out there from anybody? They've done such a fabulous job of telling their story in a short amount of time that there may not be. I guess maybe one thing I might throw at you both, as you look back on all the things that you've learned this year, is there, one piece of advice that you might have to offer to kind of summarize your thoughts from today, or just any last comments that you might want to share about what you would advise people as they look for creative ways to market in a virtual world?
I think definitely, I think the biggest thing is it's all a learning experience for everybody the first time that they're taking something really virtual, and to maybe not bite off more than you can chew. So when you're typically doing some events that are, or any kind of marketing piece like that, think about what you would do and try to do it really well, as opposed to trying to get it, out maybe to the usual masses. You would focus on something. And that's kind of what we did with one. Actually, we did have to scale it back because usually there would be so many sessions in person, but just trying to get it done really well, focus on a couple key points, and then that's kind of allowed for that continual engagement. But take little bites and make sure you can do it really well. Ask for help, reach out to networks, people that have been doing it. We're all here to help each other and to succeed. So yeah.
My closing comment would be, we will continue to just stay grounded in the insights from a consumer perspective, but then of course just even people. And we were talking this morning that when COVID really sent most of us home, or we became a very virtual culture, it was so fun to have virtual happy hours, and we thought the concept of doing that was like everybody showed up to it, and then we did it for a period of time. And then people stopped showing up to it. And it seems like there's this resurgence of, we should do a happy hour because we miss the personal piece, even though some of us might have Zoom fatigue. So we're going to continue to stay tuned into those insights, and even thinking about planning for 2021. We have a vision of where we're going, but we'll stay very close in how we deploy what we do, because things are just changing on a daily basis. I would also say, from my team's perspective in consumer marketing, our mantra is, if there's a will, there's a way, and there's certainly technology today to support it. And so if we've got some kind of crazy idea that is a unique way to connect with consumers, we're finding ways to do that, and always staying focused on what is next. Plus, the network of people is so important. Love that we had the opportunity here today to connect with you each. I hope to see you all again real soon, and just thanks for the opportunity to talk about what we're up to at Pork.
Hey, Jennifer.
So much. Yep, I was just going to pass the baton back to you after I let people know really quick to mark their calendars for December 9th. That'll be our next coffee and collaboration. We have some special plans in place involving potentially ugly holiday sweaters. So start getting creative. I can see the excitement there, Kylie and Jen. It'll be fun. We aren't exactly sure what all we're doing yet, but it's going to be a great time. So mark a calendar for December 9th, and I'll let Lindsay tell you about what's happening next month. Thanks again for joining us.
Well, good morning, everybody. For those of you that I don't know, I am the Executive Director for Livestock Publications Council, and I just wanted to follow up on Jen and Kylie's comments about hybrid events and virtual events and conferences coming up, and remind you all that Ag Media Summit is virtual this year. We postponed it to November, and then we decided to take it virtual just as a result of ongoing COVID. But it's November 16th and 17th. Registration is $195 for LPC members, and that's at agmediasummit.com. To Jen's point about scaling back for virtual conferences, you'll notice in the schedule we did do that this year with Ag Media Summit as well. If you've been to our in-person event, you know that there's a lot of different breakout sessions over the course of a few days, and we had to scale that back for a virtual event this year. But I do feel like we have a really strong lineup of speakers. We also have a couple of panels as well. And so I think that for those of you that haven't registered yet, be sure and get on Ag Media Summit and get registered for our virtual AMS event in November. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that if you are a longtime LPC member, you'll know that we typically have our annual membership meeting at Ag Media Summit, and that's in July. And when we postponed the meeting with AMS being postponed, and now that we're virtual, that means we get to have a virtual meeting as well. And so that is going to be November 9th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central. You'll see some things coming out soon to get registered for that. It's a free registration. Obviously, it's just so that you have to be an LPC member to be part of that. But this year, our membership meeting will carry a few big things. We will vote on our slate of new officers as is typical for our membership meeting. But this year, we're actually going to vote on a few other changes. Some of those changes will be bylaws changes, and we're also going to be voting on a new membership type. Right now, we just have publication, service, and student members, but our leadership is looking at adding another membership type for freelancers and contract members. And so some of you, I think, on this call fit in that segment. So be sure, if you're not an LPC member, if you'd like to be a part of our organization or want to be on that, make sure that you have renewed for the year and watch for that information coming out soon. And that is all I've got, Jennifer and Angie. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful day today. And again, this will be made available on our social media channels later, so you can share it with any of your colleagues or friends who were able to attend. And with that, thanks again, girls. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys soon.
Great. Thank you guys again so much.
Have a great day. Wash your hands.
Yes.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you later.